Hi guys, oh god, deep breaths, deep breaths. So Nick Ferrari decided to take calls on the current diplomatic row taking place between Dublin and London over immigration and asylum. As we know, a number of asylum seekers have left Great Britain, crossed the Irish Sea into Northern Ireland and then travelled south into the Republic. The reason given is that they fear that they may be deported to Rwanda as part of the Tory plan to crack down on asylum seekers arriving from France. So Nick Ferrari, a man known for putting facts before feelings and making sure to fully research a topic before talking about it, allowed an anti-Irish caller named Andrew to go completely unchallenged. Actually, Nick joined in too. My blood pressure is rising before I even click the play button. Have a listen.
Well, I'm torn really because on the one hand, I have total sympathy with those Irish people who are protesting about the demographic transformations that are taking place there. Mm-hmm. But on the other, I have no sympathy at all with the Irish political class. This country has spent nigh on 40 years tiptoeing around Irish nationalist sensitivities. We couldn't even have a proper Brexit because they insisted on an open border.
Yes.
Well, they wanted an open border. They got it. And it's not just a question of the border.
It's a bit ironic, isn't it, when you think about it?
It is.
Nick Ferrari finds all of this very funny. Isn't it ironic? Now, first of all, I want to know what this guy means, Andrew means by 40 years of tiptoeing around nationalist sentiment or sensitivities. What does he mean by that? And second, we couldn't have a proper Brexit because the Irish insisted on an open border. It's not that the Irish insisted on an open border. It's because it's part of the Good Friday Agreement, which the UK has signed up to. The UK government had said on a number of occasions, we're not going to undermine the Good Friday Agreement. When it came to the border, they avoided the question. People like Jacob Rees-Mogg said, we won't even need to talk about Northern Ireland when it comes to Brexit. They either didn't understand the impact Brexit would have on Northern Ireland, or they lied. Which is it?
And it's not just a question of the border, because the answer of any Irish Republican to any dilemma would always be the constitutional destruction of Northern Ireland. But it's also because they have a common travel area with the United Kingdom. So even if the border didn't exist and Northern Ireland didn't exist, they would still have this problem. I mean, they talked about the
What do you mean they would have this problem? The problem of people crossing the channel? The problem here is Rishi Sunak is pandering to people like Andrew to say, look, I will bring down so-called illegal immigration by creating a deterrent by sending people to Rwanda. But what it's not actually bringing down so-called illegal immigration. What's happening is people who are asylum seekers in Britain, who for some reason are allowed to just travel around the islands of Ireland and Britain and Great Britain, are arriving in Ireland. Now, why are these people being allowed to travel across the Irish Sea? Isn't the Home Office supposed to be holding on to these people, keeping these people detained in some way? No, that's not my rhetoric. That's the British government's rhetoric.
You talked about cherry picking. The Irish nationalist ideology is the most cherry picking ideology that exists anywhere in these islands.
What the hell does that mean? Does this guy actually have a coherent argument on anything?
You know, on the one hand, Britain is perfidious Albion, it's the old enemy. And on the other hand, they want to have access to British culture, British TV, British plot, and British residency.
Okay. So TV, culture, residency. Do you understand that Ireland used to be part of the United Kingdom? Do these people actually ever read history? Of course, Ireland is deeply impacted by things like British culture, British food, things like that. Because it used to be part of the United Kingdom. Do you understand why, people in Ireland drive on the same side of the road and they don't drive like the French or the Germans or the Italians? They don't drive on the right, they drive on the left. Do you understand why there's so much influence? Like you're saying, why are they taking aspects of our culture? My goodness. Like I have lived and worked with British people, English people and British people when I was in Ireland. And we had a wonderful relationship. And they embraced Irish culture. Irish people have embraced British culture like Coronation Street and EastEnders. Why is that a bad thing?
Any time should they choose it? Suck it up.
What should the Westminster government reaction be, lastly?
Well, Rishi Sunak is already facing, a pretty catastrophic defeat. If the Tories don't want to lose every single seat at the next election, they need to stand firm and stick to this principle that unless the EU take back those that they exported here...
What do you mean, the EU? Sorry, I need to go back a little bit.
The EU take back those that they exported here, we have no...
So the EU have exported people to Britain. Just let that marinate in your mind for a moment. Andrew here doesn't understand the difference between the EU and a sovereign state like France. Some of these Brexiteers seem to think that the EU is a country. Maybe in this future it could become a superstate, but at the moment they think it's a country. So it's the EU is exporting people to the United Kingdom. Now, first of all, he's claiming that the EU is engaging in some sort of people smuggling or people trafficking, that is exporting people. Once again, notice the dehumanization here, exporting as if they're products, as if they're goods. They're not people. They don't deserve people status. They're exporting this merchandise to Britain. So he's claiming here that the EU as a country is engaging in some sort of smuggling. And he's criticizing the EU when it's not the EU, but he's criticizing the EU for people smuggling. And now what is he advocating for? Well, him and others like him will advocate for Britain just to send people to Ireland.
No intention whatsoever of taking anybody back to the Republic of Ireland.
Andrew, rightly underscoring the irony or hypocrisy. Thank you for getting us started.
What hypocrisy? The irony or hypocrisy? Nick Ferrari doesn't understand the situation, but that doesn't stop him from commenting on it. Nick Ferrari doesn't understand the Good Friday Agreement, doesn't stop him from commenting on it, and he doesn't understand the common travel area. Now, I think this issue will be resolved eventually. You know, the Tories are trying to weaponize it to a certain extent, not as much as I had expected, but to a certain extent, they're weaponizing it, trying to use it as a tool, a political tool, because there are elections at the moment. But I imagine after the local elections, this issue will eventually be resolved. So there's no... The Tories are not interested in fixing this now because it doesn't serve their purposes. It actually serves their purposes not to fix it, to say, look, the deterrent is working, people are going to Ireland. But that is not a long-term strategy. And of course, the advantage the Irish government have is they have the EU on their side. So the Irish government could go to France and go to the European Commission and ask them to put pressure on France to end their agreement or whatever agreement they have with Britain, and say, we're not actually going to stop boats anymore. Just let everyone go across the channel. Now, of course, they wouldn't do that. I don't think we'd get to that stage. But that's the potential of this back and forth. The Tories are using it because it serves their purposes locally for the local elections. But long term, I don't see them doing this. It's just damaging relations with Ireland and damaging relations with the European Union. And where's the advantage in that? Just to keep a few racists and bigots happy for about 5 minutes. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.